Hi, it's Paul Antonelli here, just with another episode of the Ideal Business Podcast. Today's subject is all about time, the time matrix. So thanks for joining me today. What I want to do is take you through a tool that when we start working with all clients, it's pretty much the first thing that we get them to do and to look at it. As a business owner, and when you look at creating your ideal business, pretty sure one of the things that for most business owners, it's actually being able to extract yourself from the business and only spend time on the business on things that you like or things that where you believe you can add value. To be able to determine, if you're not doing that at the moment, if you find you're working 50 or 60, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you want to get down to 20, 25, 30 hours a week, which is totally possible. You have to sort of start with some information about where you're spending your time. And so the time matrix is a tool, and it's all about enabling you to have clear data and information about where you are spending your time so that you can then make some changes. And this is quite, it falls underneath the idea of the business becoming a little bit more independent from you, which is not only good for you, but it's also good for your business. So you sort of get out of the way of your business a little bit. If you want to grow, if you've hit a ceiling in your business, you're not able to scale beyond a certain point, in essence, what's possibly happening is that you've become the bottleneck. You've become a constraint in your business without even understanding it. And you should really look at spending as a business owner. And when you hear that term, working on the business, if you're working on the business, you're not dealing with a lot of activities that are happening every day. You tend to be 3 to 6 months ahead. You're looking at the planning stuff, looking at doing new deals, how you can do strategic alliances, joint ventures. They're the areas where you'll really see significant growth and expansion within your business. And so the time matrix is a fairly simple tool. And I found this to be really, really powerful. And the whole object of it is to not have an idea like I'm spending some time. I spend time on calls, or I spend some time dealing with people, or I spend some time on meetings and all that sort of stuff. But actually have detailed information so that you're able to assess this information and then put in place a plan to free up some time. It's pretty straightforward. So it starts with, I like to use like a Google Sheet, and you'll see the link. I'll share some information with you about a template relating to this. I've also got an ebook on this. And what it basically is you create a spreadsheet. In the first column, you just call it an activity area. And it could be, depending on your business, it could be handling inquiries, quoting, scheduling production, talking to suppliers, financial management, payments, whatever. So you basically, and you don't have to have that list at the start. You just create that first column, and then you basically across the top of the columns adjacent to it, you'll go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the idea is that every day, and you need to do this fairly religiously, fairly closely for the first. And what we'd recommend is you do it for at least 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks, and they're normal weeks, nothing out of the ordinary, not when someone's away or you might be on leave, but normal weeks, standard framework. And so what you would do is during the day, as you're doing activity, once you get onto something, you'd input it, put it in the activity area. It might be clearing emails, for example, and then once you've finished it, you might say, I spent 2 hours doing that, and that was on Monday. And then you basically would continue to do this all through the day. And you just keep adding those activities and things that you're doing. There's a couple of things that happen. It firstly makes you there's a level of consciousness around exactly what you are spending your time on. Because when you have to name it, you have to write it down, and then you have to allocate time to it. You have a high level of awareness of what you're spending your time on. So then you would go through and do this process. I'd suggest at least 2 weeks, better to do it over 3 to 4 weeks if you can. And that'll sort of pick up anything that takes place over a monthly cycle. And then you just keep tracking this. And then you should, the number of hours for each day should give you an indication of how many hours you're working each day, and then how many hours you're working each week. And so you do this for week 1, and then you go and do this for week 2, and then you just total up at the end of each week. You just tally up how much time you're spending on any of these specific activities, and then you can actually break it down into percentages. So let's say over a week, what did you spend your time on? What percentage of your time did you spend on a particular activity? And so then when you're doing this, some things that are really important to keep in mind. It's really important that you do it on a daily basis, so that you can, if you do it as you're going along, keep the sheet open for increased accuracy. If you sort of try to do it from memory, you may miss things out. So try to do it as you're going through. Don't round up. A lot of people go, it was an hour or 2 hours. Try to round up 30 minutes. You want to record accurately, so try to keep it within the 15-minute intervals. So that's probably a reasonable level of accuracy. So when you have things like, sometimes you go, I'm doing emails. It's something that people get stuck into the process of. Try to be more specific about doing emails. Are you handling complaints from team members? Is it got to do with quotes? Because you want to look at what's actually the purpose of that activity that you're doing, and with the aim of how you can shed that or get rid of it. And also time that you spend after hours as well. So at home, after hours on the weekend, it's important to track that time as well. That tends that time tends to sort of get missed. And so then once you're sort of aware, once you've done this process for 2 to 3 weeks, you then end up with a bit of a summary. Yeah. And so you might have 10, 12, 13 activities, whatever they are, and you'll average it over, so if you did it over 2 or 3 weeks, you'll average the total hours per week you're spending and what percentage of your time you're spending on that activity. And so once you've done that, now you've got a very clear picture. You know exactly where you're putting your time. And if you sort of work out, if you look closely, and there's a couple of things to consider. Do you want to be spending time on this activity? Yes or no? That's an important thing. So if you run down that list and go, I don't actually enjoy it, I don't want to be doing that anymore, it's not a good use of my time, then how much time would that free up? If it's something that you just shouldn't be doing, yet you haven't got anyone in place, then you sort of can have a look at how you can clear it. And obviously the low-hanging fruit approach makes a lot of sense. So how can you pick the items or pick the areas that you go, look, you might be spending 20% of your time on handling inquiries, which is quite common, for a lot of business owners, even though they've grown. People come in and the base level or doing estimates or quotes, which, I can understand why you want to be sort of close to it when it relates to money and pricing, so you don't get sort of burnt if it's not done properly. But whatever it is, if you look at it and go, look, I don't really want to be doing that, it's taking up a lot of my time, you've got to understand that there's an opportunity cost with what you're spending your time on. There's actually a clear opportunity cost. So if you're spending time on areas that aren't really high value, you can actually can be easily, you can either get rid of it. And I talked about the DAD principle before. You can either stop doing it, detonate it, it's not stuff that's needed, or then look at how you can sort of automate it. Or then if that's not possible, if it's not something that can be automated, then look at how you can delegate it to a team member or outsource it effectively to reduce your time involvement. So look, it's a systematic approach. I think the way I like to approach making improvements, problem solving, improving our business is by basing it on data. And something which is really which is really important is, your time. Your time is one of the most important things, and I certainly value that above anything else. And so, in relation to independence, one of the criteria for an ideal business, understanding if your aim is to make the business more independent from you and reduce your hours from what you're currently spending on the business to say 2 days or 3 days a week, you got to start with this approach. So this will give you a very clear picture of what you're spending your time on, both in a quantifiable area, and then how to actually extract yourself from it. And then once you know, let's say I want to get rid of inquiries, or I'm spending too much time in meetings, or whatever it is, then you can start looking at the how. And there's some tools that we have that can help you or assist you in moving towards what would be more ideal for you. So hopefully this was useful. It's as I mentioned before. I remember doing this with a client, and they wouldn't actually share their matrix with us. And I said, why not? And they said, oh, it's so embarrassing. They said it was so embarrassing, the amount of time they're spending on so many different things that they know are of low or very little value. So they actually wouldn't share it with us. It was a bit of an aha moment for them. And it actually instigated a high want to make some changes, to create some space. And so that not only for working less, but also being able to put more attention on what was more important. Because often if the business is stuck, it's stuck because you're still putting your attention or your time on areas that you can move on from. And that'll free you, both your mind mentally and your time, to be able to work on that next phase or the next step or the next level for your business. So yeah, very simple tool. Share with you a bit of a format. You can find that. We do have access to that, and trust it was useful. Really easy to implement. Run it over 2 or 3 weeks. Have a look at the data, and then you can know where to put your attention. Thanks for listening. Thanks for plugging in again, and look forward to catching up with you again. Ciao for now.